Let's begin with the first exercise. The first question says, since architects regularly study engineering, Frank Gehry did, for he is an architect. And one thing we should notice, that is, there are certain words telling us or indicating, usually indicating, that there are premises and conclusions following these words. Some of the words that we see like that are since and for. If you say since something is the case, something else is the case, it indicates that what is following this is in all likelihood a premise. Okay, and since that's the case, at least I took some of these exercises out of the logic book that I've given you a few pages to read. They suggest putting angle brackets around anything that is a premise indicator. So if it says since something is the case, something else is the case, something else is a conclusion as a result of that. Okay, now we gotta have one of those words in here, and we also have another one. We said Frank Gehry did, for he is an architect. You know, somebody did something for is like because. It also gives a reason. So again, that looks like a premise indicator. Whoops. Let us get the premises marked off. Okay. Now, what follows a premise indicator is usually a conclusion indicator. Excuse me, I meant what usually follows a premise indicator is a premise. Okay, so now since comes before architects, so that sounds like architects regularly study engineering is going to be a reason or a premise, and a premise for, not quite clear, but I have a feeling it's Frank Gehry did, and for he is an architect. Again, for is a premise indicator, so if it looks like it's a premise indicator, we should indicate that what follows is a premise, which in the logic text they want us to put in parentheses, and so we have looks like two premises, and now we have a conclusion, which we're going to underline. And what we should do with this now is we're going to put this into standard form. Well, standard form, as you recall, is first we're going to figure out, put the conclusion at the end. So at the end of this, if I could get there, we're going to put the conclusion right there at the bottom. Frank Gehry did, but we're going to have to figure out what he did, because it might be helpful to say what he did. And now the premises that are supposed to lead us to that conclusion are architects study engineering, regularly study engineering, and he's an architect, and we'll draw the line. Therefore, Frank Gehry did. And remember, the other thing we want to do is put numbers at the beginning of each premise, as well as putting a number for the conclusion. And now we should probably just clean it up a little bit. That is, we're going to have sentences. Architects regularly study engineering. He, we'll say who the he is. Frank Gehry is an architect. Therefore, Frank Gehry did what? Studied engineering. Okay, and now we have put this argument into standard form.